It was a perfect morning in the quiet suburban neighborhood. The sun was shining brightly, and birds chirped from the treetops. Kids played in their yards, and the hum of lawnmowers filled the air. On the green grass of a modest backyard, a boy named Sam was laughing as he tossed a ball to his dog, Buddy. Buddy, a golden retriever with boundless energy, darted across the yard, snagging the ball midair before trotting back with a wagging tail. Sam's dad, Mark, leaned on the porch railing, sipping coffee, while Sam's mom, Claire, flipped pancakes inside the house. It was a morning like any other, but that was about to change in ways no one could imagine. The first sign was the sudden silence. The birds stopped singing. The rustle of leaves ceased. Even the distant sounds of cars on the main road disappeared. Buddy froze mid-step, his ears twitching as if he had heard something no one else could. Mark frowned, setting his mug down. "That's strange," he murmured. Sam, oblivious, tossed the ball again, but Buddy didn't move. Instead, he stood rigid, his fur bristling. A low growl rumbled from his throat. "Buddy," Sam called, confused. The sky began to change. A dark shadow rolled across the neighborhood, blotting out the sun. At first, it seemed like a storm was approaching, but there were no clouds, just an unnatural darkness spreading like ink in water. People stepped out of their houses, shielding their eyes and looking upward. Gasps and murmurs filled the streets as something massive broke through the atmosphere. They were ships, colossal alien ships unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Their sleek, metallic hulls shimmered faintly as they hovered above the earth. The lead ship let out a deep, resonating hum that made the ground tremble. Panic erupted. People screamed, rushing indoors or grabbing their phones to record the bizarre sight. The ships loomed menacingly, blocking out the sun entirely. Buddy's growling grew louder, his teeth bared. Mark pulled Sam closer, his voice shaking. "Get inside. Now." Before anyone could react further, beams of light shot down from the alien ships. The beams were not ordinary lights. They were devastating energy blasts. The distant city on the horizon exploded in a fiery eruption as one of the beams struck it. Towers crumbled, and smoke billowed into the sky. "Oh my God," Claire whispered, stepping outside just in time to see another beam obliterate a section of the nearby town. Chaos ensued. Car alarms blared, people shouted, and the ground shook with every distant explosion. Sam clung to Buddy's fur, tears streaming down his face. "What's happening, Dad?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I don't know," Mark replied, pulling him closer, "but we need to stay calm." The devastation continued for what felt like hours but was only minutes. Then, as quickly as the blasts had begun, they stopped. Silence returned, but it was not the calm kind. It was heavy, filled with dread. A new sound filled the air. It was a low-frequency hum, barely audible but impossible to ignore. The sound seemed to press against everyone's ears and minds. Sam felt dizzy, clutching his head. Mark stumbled back, and Claire leaned against the doorframe, her face pale. Across the street, a neighbor collapsed on his front lawn, clutching his chest. Buddy, however, was unaffected. Instead of cowering or collapsing, his growling intensified. He barked furiously at the sky, his body tense as if ready to attack. Mark noticed Buddy's behavior through his dazed state. Why? Why isn't he affected? He muttered, gripping the porch railing for support. Sam, despite the pressure in his skull, managed to wrap his arms around Buddy. "He's scared too," Sam said, but deep down, he realized Buddy wasn't scared. He was angry. High-pitched whirring sounds echoed as smaller ships descended from the massive vessels above. These were scout ships, sleek and fast, with a strange, insect-like design. They hovered low over the ground, releasing alien troops. Tall, slender beings with translucent armor and glowing weapons. The Clorvins had arrived. The aliens moved with cold efficiency, scanning the area with devices that emitted green, pulsating lights. They ignored the collapsed humans, focusing on taking control of the surroundings. One of the scouts approached a family huddled on their porch. The father weakly tried to shield his children, but the alien raised a hand, releasing a pulse of light that knocked them unconscious. Buddy barked louder, snapping everyone's attention to him. His barking was relentless, a mix of fury and defiance. The closest Clorven turned its gaze toward Buddy, tilting its head in curiosity. Slowly, it began approaching the dog. "Buddy, no," Sam yelled, but the dog didn't retreat. Instead, he stood his ground, his growls deepening. The Clorven extended a clawed hand toward Buddy, as if to test what this strange creature might do. Buddy launched forward, teeth bared, and bit down on the alien's arm. The Clorven shrieked, a sharp metallic sound, and stumbled back. Sparks flew from its arm where Buddy's teeth had pierced the armor. Mark's eyes widened. Did he just hurt it? Buddy didn't stop. He lunged again, this time going for the Clorven's leg. The alien flailed, its movements becoming erratic as its body convulsed. To everyone's shock, the Clorven collapsed, its glowing weapon clattering to the ground. For a moment, there was silence. The other aliens turned their attention to Buddy, their unreadable faces betraying no emotion. Then they began to retreat, moving back toward their scout ships, as if reassessing the situation. Buddy stood tall, his chest heaving, a triumphant bark echoing through the yard. Mark, Claire, and Sam stared in disbelief. "What just happened?" Claire finally asked, her voice shaking. "I don't know," Mark replied, his mind racing. "But I think Buddy just became our best chance of fighting back." Sam knelt beside Buddy, hugging him tightly. "Good boy, Buddy," he whispered. "Good boy." In the distance, the alien motherships hovered ominously, their lights flickering as if preparing for the next phase of their invasion. But for the first time, a spark of hope flickered among the terrified humans. Buddy, and perhaps all dogs, were not only immune to the aliens' tactics, they were Earth's unexpected protectors. And the Clorvens had no idea what they were up against. The stillness that followed the alien bombardment was suffocating. Smoke rose in the distance, and faint cries echoed through the once busy suburban streets. The family remained on the porch, their eyes locked on Buddy, who stood in front of them like a sentinel. His ears twitched, and his nose sniffed the air as if sensing danger before it arrived. Mark held Sam close, his mind racing. Claire clutched the edge of the door, her knuckles white. "We need to get inside," Mark said, his voice low but firm. He knew they were sitting ducks out in the open. As the family retreated into the house, the faint hum of the alien ships grew louder. Mark peered out of the window. What he saw made his stomach churn. The Clorvens were coming. A small squad of aliens moved silently through the neighborhood. They were tall and sleek, their movements unnervingly fluid. Their translucent armor shimmered, blending into the background like a chameleon. In their clawed hands, they held strange, glowing weapons. The air around them seemed to ripple, like heat rising off pavement. Mark ducked back and whispered, "They're coming this way. Stay quiet." Sam whimpered, clutching Buddy's fur. Buddy, however, didn't seem scared. His growling was barely audible now, but his body was tense, ready to spring into action. The sound of footsteps on gravel made everyone freeze. The Clorvens had reached their street. Mark's breath caught as he saw the alien leader raise a scanning device. A green pulse of light swept across the house. The front door handle twisted. Mark grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter, his heart pounding. Claire held Sam close, trying to keep him calm. Buddy stood in front of them, his tail low, growling softly. The door swung open, and 3 Clorvens entered. Their glowing eyes swept the room, taking in every detail. They moved with precision, their heads tilting, as if calculating the best course of action. One of them stepped forward, raising its weapon. The light at the barrel began to pulse, and Mark instinctively raised the knife, though he knew it was useless against such advanced technology. But before the alien could fire, Buddy launched himself forward with a ferocious bark. The golden retriever leaped straight at the alien's arm, his jaws clamping down with incredible force. The alien let out a metallic screech, stumbling back as sparks flew from its damaged armor. Buddy didn't let go, shaking his head violently and tearing into the alien's limb. Mark couldn't believe his eyes. "Buddy!" he shouted, half in fear and half in awe. The alien convulsed, its body spasming uncontrollably. It dropped its weapon, which clattered to the floor, its glow fading. Then, with one final shudder, the alien collapsed. The other two Clorvins paused, as if trying to process what had just happened. One of them stepped toward Buddy, raising its weapon, but Buddy was faster. He lunged at the second alien, sinking his teeth into its leg. The alien shrieked, falling to one knee as Buddy tore through its armor. "Buddy, come back," Sam cried. But the dog was relentless. The third Clorvin hesitated. For the first time, the invaders seemed unsure. Their sleek, calculated movements were replaced with jerky, hesitant steps. Mark seized the opportunity. He grabbed the fallen alien weapon, though he had no idea how to use it. "Stay back," he shouted, aiming it at the remaining Clorvin. The alien tilted its head, then emitted a strange clicking sound. It backed away slowly, its shimmering armor blending into the surroundings until it was barely visible. Moments later, it disappeared into the smoke outside. Buddy returned to the family, his golden fur streaked with alien fluid. His tongue lolled out, and his tail wagged as if he had just completed a game of fetch. Mark stared at the fallen aliens, his mind racing. The first one, the one Buddy had bitten, was still convulsing slightly. Its armor was cracked, and its exposed skin was discolored and bubbling where Buddy's saliva had made contact. Claire stepped forward cautiously. "What's happening to it?" "I think," Mark began, struggling to find the words. "I think Buddy's bite did something to it." Sam knelt beside Buddy, hugging him tightly. "Buddy, you're amazing," he whispered. The dog licked Sam's face, his usual playful self once again. Claire leaned over the alien's body, studying it with morbid curiosity. It's reacting to something in his saliva," she said, her voice trembling. Mark nodded. "It's a weakness," he said, the realization dawning on him. These aliens, these Clorvins, they didn't plan for something like this. They underestimated Earth. They underestimated Buddy. The sound of distant explosions reminded them that the invasion was far from over. Mark turned to his family, his expression serious. "We need to get out of here. If Buddy can hurt them, we need to let others know. This could be our only chance." Claire hesitated. "How are we supposed to spread the word? The power's out, and the streets are swarming with those things." Mark looked down at the alien weapon in his hands. "We'll figure it out," he said, determination in his voice. Sam stood up, holding Buddy's leash tightly. "Buddy will protect us," he said confidently. Mark smiled faintly, ruffling his son's hair. "Yeah, he will." As the family prepared to leave, Buddy stood at the door, his ears perked and his nose twitching. The golden retriever was no longer just a family pet. He was their protector, their hope, and maybe, just maybe, Earth's best defense against the alien invaders. The Clorvins had made a critical miscalculation. They came to Earth expecting to conquer a species they considered weak and inferior, but they hadn't accounted for the loyalty, courage, and ferocity of humanity's best friend. Around the world, chaos erupted as the Clorvins unleashed their invasion. Their ships hovered menacingly over major cities, releasing energy blasts that decimated buildings and left streets in ruins. Alien troops marched through the rubble, capturing or incapacitating anyone who crossed their path. Humans fell easily to the strange frequencies, their minds clouded and bodies weakened. It seemed hopeless, but something unexpected began to happen. In a quiet village in Scotland, a group of survivors huddled in an old stone barn, trying to stay hidden. Outside, the Clorvins searched the area, their glowing weapons ready. Just as a group of aliens approached the barn, a sharp whistle cut through the air. From the nearby hills, a border collie darted into view. Its black and white coat moved like a blur as it ran circles around the aliens, barking loudly. The Clorvins hesitated, their scanners unable to track the dog's rapid movements. The collie wasn't alone. A second dog joined in, then a third, each one working with precision. They herded the aliens away from the barn, forcing them toward a nearby gorge. The survivors watched in awe as the dogs led the Clorvins straight into the trap, a steep drop where the aliens had no escape. In New York City, the streets were eerily quiet, save for the hum of alien drones patrolling above. A police K-9 unit had been left behind in the chaos, its handlers taken by the invaders. The German shepherd, named Max, crouched in the shadows of a burnt-out car, his eyes fixed on a drone hovering nearby. With a sudden burst of speed, Max leaped onto the car's hood and then into the air. His powerful jaws clamped down on the drone, pulling it to the ground. Sparks flew as Max tore through its machinery. Another drone spotted him and fired a laser, but Max dodged just in time, darting into an alleyway. The single act of resistance inspired other dogs in the area to act. Before long, stray dogs were leaping at drones, pulling them from the sky one by one. In a small town in Mexico, an elderly woman limped down the street, clutching a small chihuahua named Coco in her arms. Behind her, a Clorvin troop advanced, their glowing eyes fixed on her. The woman stumbled, and Coco jumped to the ground, barking furiously. The aliens paused, seemingly confused by the tiny dog's defiance. One of them bent down, reaching for Coco, but the little chihuahua darted under its legs, biting its exposed heel. The alien yelped and stumbled, its weapon firing wildly and hitting one of its own kind. The woman managed to slip away, tears streaming down her face as she whispered a prayer of gratitude for her brave companion. As these events unfolded, scientists in a hidden lab deep underground worked tirelessly to understand what was happening. Dr. Elena Parker, a biologist specializing in animal behavior, stared at the results on her screen. "This can't be a coincidence," she murmured, adjusting her glasses. "What did you find?" asked her colleague, Dr. Amir Khan, who was poring over footage of dogs attacking aliens from various parts of the world. Elena pointed to the data. "The frequency the Clorvins are using. It's designed to disrupt human neural pathways, making us disoriented and weak. But it doesn't affect dogs. Their brains don't process the frequency the same way ours do. They're immune." Amir leaned back, rubbing his temples. "And not just immune. Look at how they're responding. They're not just protecting their humans. They're actively fighting back." Elena nodded. "Dogs have always been loyal. They're pack animals, wired to protect their family. But this is beyond instinct. It's almost like they understand the stakes." The lab was buzzing with activity. Researchers analyzed every detail of the dog's resistance. In one video, a golden retriever led a group of children to safety through a war-torn city. In another, a pack of street dogs worked together to disable an alien vehicle. "Dogs are the perfect combatants," Elena said, her voice filled with urgency. "They're fast, adaptable, and fearless. And the Clorvins didn't plan for them. They built their entire invasion strategy around subduing humans. They never thought about our animals." Amir glanced at the data again. "If we can find a way to harness this, we might stand a chance." Back on the surface, the resistance was growing. Stories of heroic dogs spread like wildfire, giving people hope. In Paris, a Labrador named Belle became a symbol of courage after saving an entire family trapped under rubble. In Tokyo, a Shiba Inu named Hashi led survivors through the subway system, avoiding alien patrols. For every alien ship that hovered menacingly above, there was a dog on the ground ready to fight back. Their bravery was contagious, inspiring humans to rise above their fear and join the fight. But the Clorvins weren't blind to what was happening. In their command ships, the alien leaders analyzed the sudden resistance with growing frustration. They had underestimated this planet, and now they were paying the price. Still, the Clorvins didn't understand the depth of the bond between humans and their dogs. They couldn't comprehend the loyalty, the love, and the unbreakable connection that drove these animals to fight with everything they had. As night fell across the planet, the world seemed to hold its breath. The battle was far from over, but humanity had a new weapon, one the Clorvins could never have anticipated. And the dogs, from the smallest Chihuahua to the mightiest German Shepherd, stood ready. They had awakened to their role as Earth's defenders, and they weren't backing down. The resistance was growing stronger by the day. In every corner of the world, humans and dogs joined forces, united by a shared determination to push back the Clorvin invaders. What began as isolated acts of defiance had now evolved into a coordinated movement. Humanity, battered but unbroken, was preparing to launch its counterattack. In a hidden base carved deep into the mountains, engineers worked tirelessly to create gear that would enhance the dogs' natural abilities. Lightweight armor was designed to protect them in combat without hindering their speed. Advanced eye-enhanced collars allowed humans to communicate with their canine partners through simple commands and signals. The base buzzed with energy as teams trained together, preparing for the fight ahead. One such team was led by Captain David Morales, a seasoned soldier, and his German shepherd, Zeus. Zeus had already become a legend within the Resistance, known for his sharp instincts and fearlessness. Morales and Zeus had been chosen for a high-stakes mission, to take down a Clorvin communication hub that controlled their surveillance systems in the region. The plan was daring. Under the cover of darkness, Morales and his team approached the heavily guarded hub. Zeus moved ahead, his sleek black armor blending with the shadows. His collar emitted a faint pulse, signaling that he was in position. "Zeus, go," Morales whispered through his comms. Zeus darted forward, his movements silent and precise. He reached the perimeter of the hub and crouched low, waiting for the signal. Morales and the rest of the team followed, their breaths steady despite the tension. When the moment came, Zeus sprang into action. He leaped onto a Clorvin guard, his powerful jaws clamping down on the alien's weapon arm. The guard collapsed, its armor sparking as Zeus tore through it. The distraction gave Morales and his team the opening they needed to breach the hub's defenses. Inside, chaos erupted. Zeus led the charge, weaving through the aliens and disabling their equipment with calculated precision. The humans followed, planting explosives and securing key points within the facility. As the timer ticked down, Morales called out, "Zeus, fall back." Zeus obeyed, retreating to his master's side just as the team exited the hub. Moments later, a massive explosion lit up the night sky, sending a message to the Clorvins that their grip on Earth was slipping. Elsewhere, an army of dogs was preparing for another mission. This time, the target was a Clorvin supply depot hidden in the desert. The depot stored critical resources for the invaders, including weapons and energy cells. If destroyed, it would deal a significant blow to their operations. Leading the charge was Luna, a fierce Belgian Malinois known for her agility and tactical intelligence. Luna's team included a mix of breeds, from a hulking Rottweiler named Tank to a nimble Jack Russell Terrier named Dash. Each dog had been trained for a specific role in the operation. The team moved under the scorching desert sun, their armor glinting faintly. As they approached the depot, Luna barked once, a signal for the others to spread out. Tank took the lead, his massive frame barreling through the gates and scattering the Clorvin guards. Dash darted around the perimeter, planting small explosive charges at key points. Inside the depot, Luna and the others worked quickly, tearing through crates of supplies and disabling alien machinery. The Clorvins fought back, but they were no match for the dog's speed and coordination. By the time reinforcements arrived, the depot was already engulfed in flames. Not every mission ended in victory, though. The cost of the resistance was high, and every loss was deeply felt. During an operation to rescue trapped survivors in a Clorvan-occupied city, a Labrador named Bella made the ultimate sacrifice. Bella had been part of a team tasked with clearing a path for the rescue convoy. As they navigated the narrow streets, an alien ambush caught them off guard. Bella's handler, Private Jenna Lee, tried to pull her back, but Bella saw the danger before anyone else. Without hesitation, Bella charged into the fray, knocking over an alien soldier and causing its weapon to misfire. The blast hit a nearby support beam, bringing part of the building down and trapping the ambush squad. The path was clear, but Bella was caught under the rubble. Jenna screamed, rushing to Bella's side. She frantically tried to free her companion, but Bella licked her hand softly, as if to say it was okay. The convoy moved forward, carrying the survivors to safety, but Jenna stayed behind until the very end, cradling Bella as her light faded. The loss of Bella sent ripples through the resistance. At a memorial held in the underground base, humans and dogs gathered to honor her bravery. Jenna stood silently, tears streaming down her face as she placed Bella's collar on a small pedestal. Zeus and Luna sat nearby, their heads bowed as if they too were mourning their fallen comrade. Despite the pain, Bella's sacrifice strengthened the resolve of the resistance. Stories of her bravery spread far and wide, inspiring others to fight harder. The Clorvans may have been technologically superior, but they could never match the bond between humans and their dogs, a bond forged in love, loyalty, and unyielding courage. As the resistance prepared for the next phase of their campaign, one thing was clear: Earth's defenders, both human and canine, were ready to face whatever the invaders threw at them. Together, they would take back their planet. The resistance had grown into a formidable force, and their next target was the Clorvans' command ship, a massive, ominous vessel that hovered in Earth's upper atmosphere, controlling the invasion below. Taking it down would cripple the Clorvans and force them to retreat. The stakes had never been higher. In a hidden base deep within the Rocky Mountains, the resistance leaders gathered for their final briefing. On the holographic table in front of them, a 3D model of the command ship rotated slowly. Captain David Morales stood at the head of the table, Zeus by his side. "This is it," Morales said, his voice firm but laced with urgency. "We've located the Clorvan command ship. This is their nerve center. If we take it out, we end their invasion." Dr. Elena Parker, who had been instrumental in understanding the aliens' technology, stepped forward. "The ship is heavily fortified, but there's a weak point: the core. If we disable it, the ship will lose power. However, reaching the core won't be easy. It's located deep within the ship, past multiple layers of security." The room was silent as the resistance leaders absorbed the gravity of the mission. Finally, Morales spoke. "We'll need a multi-species strike team, humans for technical operations, and dogs for stealth and combat." The plan was set. A small, elite team would infiltrate the command ship using a captured alien transport. Among the chosen were Buddy, the golden retriever who had saved his family on the first day of the invasion, and his handler, Sarah Mitchell. Buddy had proven himself time and again, and now he was ready for the ultimate challenge. The night before the mission, the base was quiet. Sarah sat with Buddy, stroking his fur as she whispered to him, "You've been so brave, Buddy. Tomorrow, we're going to finish this. You ready?" Buddy wagged his tail, his warm brown eyes full of trust. The next morning, the strike team boarded the captured transport. As they ascended toward the command ship, tension filled the air. The transport docked, and the team slipped inside the alien vessel. The interior of the ship was a maze of glowing corridors and eerie alien technology. The air hummed with the sound of machinery. The team moved cautiously, with dogs like Buddy and Zeus leading the way. Their enhanced collars translated hand signals into commands, allowing for silent communication. As they approached the control room, the first line of alien guards appeared. The Clorvans had learned from their earlier encounters and were better prepared for canine combatants. But the dogs were faster, smarter, and more determined. Buddy lunged at a guard, his jaws clamping down on its weapon arm. Another guard tried to intervene, but Zeus was already on it, knocking the alien to the ground. The humans followed, taking out the remaining guards with precision. The team breached the control room, a sprawling chamber filled with consoles and holographic displays. In the center was the core, a pulsating orb of energy surrounded by intricate machinery. Dr. Parker's voice came through the comms. You need to plant the charges at the base of the core. Once they're set, you'll have 3 minutes to get out. While the humans worked to disable the core, the dogs kept watch, alert for any sign of reinforcements. But the Clorvins weren't going to let their command ship fall so easily. More guards poured into the room, and the battle intensified. Buddy, despite his usually gentle demeanor, fought with unmatched courage. He took down 2 guards in quick succession, giving Sarah the time she needed to plant the final charge. But just as the timer started counting down, an alarm blared. The Clorvins had activated an emergency lockdown. Buddy, we need to override the system, Sarah shouted. She pointed to a console near the core. Without hesitation, Buddy ran to it. His collar's eye-enhanced interface synced with the console, and a series of commands flashed across the screen. The lockdown began to lift, but the core was becoming unstable. The charges had triggered a chain reaction, and the entire ship was on the verge of collapse. Everyone out. Now, Morales ordered. As the team retreated, Buddy stayed behind. He glanced back at Sarah, then at the core, as if understanding what needed to be done. With a final burst of determination, he lunged at the console, his paw activating the ship's self-destruct sequence. Buddy, no. Sarah screamed, but it was too late. The core's energy flared, and Buddy's form was silhouetted against the blinding light. The team barely made it to their transport before the command ship erupted in a massive explosion. The sky lit up as debris rained down, and the remaining Clorvin ships scattered, retreating into space. In a hidden base deep within the Rocky Mountains, the resistance leaders gathered for their final briefing. On the holographic table in front of them, a 3D model of the command ship rotated slowly. Captain David Morales stood at the head of the table, Zeus by his side. "This is it," Morales said, his voice firm but laced with urgency. "We've located the Clorvin command ship. This is their nerve center. If we take it out, we end their invasion." Dr. Elena Parker, who had been instrumental in understanding the aliens' technology, stepped forward. "The ship is heavily fortified, but there's a weak point, the core. If we disable it, the ship will lose power. However, reaching the core won't be easy. It's located deep within the ship, past multiple layers of security." The room was silent as the resistance leaders absorbed the gravity of the mission. Finally, Morales spoke. "We'll need a multi-species strike team, humans for technical operations, and dogs for stealth and combat." The plan was set. A small, elite team would infiltrate the command ship using a captured alien transport. Among the chosen were Buddy, the golden retriever who had saved his family on the first day of the invasion, and his handler, Sarah Mitchell. Buddy had proven himself time and again, and now he was ready for the ultimate challenge. The night before the mission, the base was quiet. Sarah sat with Buddy, stroking his fur as she whispered to him, "You've been so brave, Buddy. Tomorrow, we're going to finish this. You ready?" Buddy wagged his tail, his warm brown eyes full of trust. The next morning, the strike team boarded the captured transport. As they ascended toward the command ship, tension filled the air. The transport docked, and the team slipped inside the alien vessel. The interior of the ship was a maze of glowing corridors and eerie alien technology. The air hummed with the sound of machinery. The team moved cautiously, with dogs like Buddy and Zeus leading the way. Their enhanced collars translated hand signals into commands, allowing for silent communication. As they approached the control room, the first line of alien guards appeared. The Clorvins had learned from their earlier encounters and were better prepared for canine combatants. But the dogs were faster, smarter, and more determined. Buddy lunged at a guard, his jaws clamping down on its weapon arm. Another guard tried to intervene, but Zeus was already on it, knocking the alien to the ground. The humans followed, taking out the remaining guards with precision. The team breached the control room, a sprawling chamber filled with consoles and holographic displays. In the center was the core, a pulsating orb of energy surrounded by intricate machinery. Dr. Parker's voice came through the comms. You need to plant the charges at the base of the core. Once they're set, you'll have 3 minutes to get out. While the humans worked to disable the core, the dogs kept watch, alert for any sign of reinforcements. But the Clorvins weren't going to let their command ship fall so easily. More guards poured into the room, and the battle intensified. Buddy, despite his usually gentle demeanor, fought with unmatched courage. He took down 2 guards in quick succession, giving Sarah the time she needed to plant the final charge. But just as the timer started counting down, an alarm blared. The Clorvins had activated an emergency lockdown. Buddy, we need to override the system, Sarah shouted. She pointed to a console near the core. Without hesitation, Buddy ran to it. His collar's eye-enhanced interface synced with the console, and a series of commands flashed across the screen. The lockdown began to lift, but the core was becoming unstable. The charges had triggered a chain reaction, and the entire ship was on the verge of collapse. Everyone out. Now, Morales ordered. As the team retreated, Buddy stayed behind. He glanced back at Sarah, then at the core, as if understanding what needed to be done. With a final burst of determination, he lunged at the console, his paw activating the ship's self-destruct sequence. Buddy, no. Sarah screamed, but it was too late. The core's energy flared, and Buddy's form was silhouetted against the blinding light. The team barely made it to their transport before the command ship erupted in a massive explosion. The sky lit up as debris rained down, and the remaining Clorvin ships scattered, retreating into space. Sarah smiled. Yes, this is Buddy. The boy knelt beside them, gently placing the flowers near Buddy's paw. Thank you for saving us, he whispered. Buddy opened his eyes and gave the boy's hand a gentle lick. The child laughed, the sound pure and joyful, cutting through the stillness of the night. As the boy walked away, Sarah looked down at Buddy. You've touched so many lives, she said softly. You're more than a hero. You're a reminder of what we can achieve when we stand together. The final image was one of hope and healing. Under the vast, peaceful sky, Buddy lay beside Sarah, his golden fur glowing in the moonlight. Nearby, other dogs played with their humans, their barks and laughter filling the air. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger. The Clorvins had underestimated Earth, not because of its technology or its armies, but because of the unbreakable bond between humans and their dogs. That bond had turned the tide of the war, and it would continue to protect the planet in the years to come. And so, as the stars watched over a world at peace, one thing was certain. Earth was ready for whatever came next, with dogs like Buddy leading the way.